Number 4, Keon said during the Chelsea quarterfinal that if Real Madrid can win the 2021-2022 Champions League, then Karim Benzema's Champions League campaign can be the best ever. Now, as we won it, do you think it is, or was the Cristiano Ronaldo La Decima campaign better? I just want to say I don't really remember saying that. The things I'm reminded about saying that I never remembered saying, it's quite... Either people are really messing with me or just I have a terrible memory. Not that I would necessarily disagree, but I just don't remember saying it. But I don't know if... I mean, what Benzema did this season was pretty special. Where do you stand on this?
So Benzema scored 15 Champions League goals. I had to check because I forgot it was that much, actually, which is wild. And only 2 off the 17 that Ronaldo scored in the 13-14 campaign. This is really tough because I think from a pure goal standpoint, I think Benzema's goals were just more valuable than Ronaldo's, especially when you look at the knockout stages where Benzema had 10 of his 15 goals in the knockout stages, 2 back-to-back hat-tricks. And I think Ronaldo had 8 in the knockout stages because he broke the record in the group stages to pick up 9, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think 4 of those came to Schalke in the round of 16. I think something like that. And then obviously he had the brace versus Bayern. He had 1 versus Dortmund. And then he had 1 versus Atleti in the final. I think that possibly all adds up. But if we just look at what Benzema did in the knockouts with his goals, right? Hat-trick versus PSG second leg, hat-trick versus Chelsea, goal versus Chelsea in the second leg, brace versus City, and then the goal versus City in the second leg. And it was that whole run until the final, which is where he actually quieted down a little bit, where it was just a difficult environment for us offensively generally. Like, that's just a better goal scoring run than Ronaldo had in the knockouts. There's also the context of Ronaldo. I think he was even injured, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, he wasn't able to play the second leg versus Dortmund, where we got smacked 2-0, and we were like on the edge of our seats, wondering if we could hold on to that one. And that was where like the beginning of Casemiro's legend, I think, started. And then obviously in the final, he wasn't himself. But in terms of that aspect, I would give the edge to Ben. And it's not just the numbers, but like the situations Real Madrid were in, right? The way Ben scored those goals, like, it was literally just dragging that team through, gives him a bit of an edge in terms of that. Whereas with Ronaldo, it was just a fantastic team. Ronaldo was kind of the spirit of. I mean, we destroyed Schalke in the Bernabeu leg versus Borussia Dortmund. We won 3-0. We smashed Bayern Munich, which was the big surprise. But aspect to this is Ronaldo's 4 assists, and Benzema surprisingly only had 1 throughout the tournament. And really, the creation load was actually shifted onto Vinicius, right? Benzema became the finisher. Vinicius was the ball progressor, carrier, and Ronaldo was kind of like all of those things together. It was like the final year of his prime as an all-around winger / inside forward. And I think that part of the game can't be underestimated. So all of this just is like me stalling because I can't like decide. Let's just say for now, I'll give the edge to Ronaldo because that's the campaign I thought more about and evaluated more. I'm going to have to go back and think about this. But I think an easy case can be made for Benzema because the situations he was in were just legitimately so difficult, and he was pulling miracles out of his hat. Like, honestly, this feels more akin in terms of the knockout that 17 campaign from Ronaldo, even though from the group stages throughout the knockouts, it wasn't like as complete of a campaign, but like that one feels more similar to this one. But yeah, it's a tough one. But for now, let's just say I give the edge to Ronaldo. But there's a high chance I go back and review Benzema's campaign. I end up thinking like, man, maybe this is superior.
That's funny because I was listening to everything you were saying, and putting it all together and mapping it out and using that to form my conclusion. And my conclusion was different to your conclusion that you came up with at the end, which, I mean, no, it wasn't really a conclusion because you were open to either answer. But to me, listening to you speak, I actually took away that Benzema's was more impressive because, yeah, it's 2 less goals, but as you outlined, the urgency and the desperation and the circumstances of the goals were more desperately needed than Ronaldo's. The team was was not as good to that 2014 team. So I think Benzema wins this discussion.
Just to clarify, the reason I'm giving is just I think Ronaldo was more all round. Like Benzema was doing the goals, but I think Ronaldo was doing like Benzema's job, and then also like a little bit of Vinicius's. Like I don't think we can underestimate the completeness of that version of Ronaldo. But again, like I think the goals just that I think it's very probable or possible that you can argue for Benzema. Like I'm not against it. This is just like me leaning on something I'm more certain about for something I haven't had time to review as much.
Yeah, and I'd also like to present a different way of looking at it too. Although it's not necessarily fair to Benzema because I think maybe he would have been a different player and even have an even bigger legacy, maybe, possibly, not necessarily, but possibly if he didn't play with Ronaldo for, the period he did. But I think because to me, Cristiano Ronaldo was the greatest player in club history. And I would basically believe in him in any game he plays for us. I think if you put Cristiano Ronaldo in Benzema's role this season, I think it's fair to say that he could also carry us the same way Benzema did. Maybe not in some... Like Benzema, I think one of the underrated things he did this season and always does, to be fair, is like his defensive work. So I don't know what Cristiano Ronaldo does in that front necessarily. But I think it's fair to say that if you plug in the greatest player and probably the most clutch player in club history in the Benzema role this season, he also helps us win the Champions League. But if you put Benzema in the Ronaldo role 14-15, can he replicate that? Because I don't think he can.
I mean 13-14.
Yeah, whatever it was. 13-14, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the 14-15 season actually had a bit of, the Ronaldo needs to save us. I don't know if you remember the Schalke game. The Bernabeu, we lost 4-3, and Ronaldo needed to score a brace, and it was a wild game. Anyway.
Schalke or Wolfsburg?
There's too many. Well, no, 14-15 was Schalke. Like, this was the final Ancelotti season, right? So It was Schalke in, I can't remember the round 16 or finals, but like we were on the ropes. I think we won 2-0 in the first leg. Like Marcelo ended up scoring, and then we needed Ronaldo out. And it was when like cracks were starting to appear in the foundation of that team. Anyway.
What's up, YouTube? This is Kiyan Sobhani. What you just listened to was a small 8-minute clip from a podcast that was 1.5 hours, and it went up exclusively over on patreon.com/managingmadrid as part of the weekly mailbag. So every single Thursday over on patreon.com/managingmadrid, people send questions in and we answer them. And it's a ton of fun, and it's a Real Madrid mailbag where we talk about tactics, formations, squad construction, the news of the day, breaking transfer stuff if that happens, history, Castilla, everything. And it's so much fun, and we want you to be a part of it. So go over to patreon.com/managingmadrid, where you get access to that every single week, plus other bonus shows that go out every week. So if you want access to that, again, patreon.com/managingmadrid. And also, very important, if you're planning to go to the games in Vegas and San Francisco. So Vegas, we have a Clásico coming up this month, and in San Francisco, we have the game against Club America for the preseason. We are coming to those cities to do a live podcast and also cover the games, obviously. So those two cities, those two games, if you're going to those, make sure to come out to our podcast. The link is in the show notes, and you can also just leave a comment if you have trouble booking your spot, but make sure you get in because prices go up on July 15th, and we want you to get in ASAP. Thank you for being part of the channel, and Hala Madrid.